So it's finally come to this, perhaps my biggest review of 2023, and I don't mean that in the sense that what I'm about to talk about is a highly anticipated blockbuster, but instead a movie that I knew people would want me to talk about since it was first announced, and now it's been unleashed for the world to see. So let's talk about Paw Patrol: The Mighty Movie. The first Paw Patrol movie needs no introduction, at least regarding its history as a meme on my channel, because I saw it back in 2021, and I had the audacity to say that I thought it was a bad movie. Granted, I made a re-review of it recently since my video quality back in 2021 was really bad, so if you want to hear more about my thoughts on Paw Patrol the movie, I suggest you go watch that video. But since it was a success critically, financially, and on streaming, it was to be expected that Paramount, Nickelodeon, and Spin Master would capitalize on it by making a cinematic franchise out of one of their most popular IPs of all time. And I say cinematic franchise because a threequel is already in development and is expected to be released sometime in 2026. But let's focus on the Mighty Movie for the time being, which has that title since it's focusing on the Mighty Pups subplot from the original series. Because I didn't like the first one, I naturally didn't have the highest hopes for the second. Granted, it did look better than its predecessor, but it's next to impossible to see a sequel to a bad movie turn out to be good. Okay, other than that one time. Okay, and there's that one. That one too. And yeah, I guess that one counts. Okay, so it's not impossible for a sequel to a bad movie to be good, but it's very uncommon for that to happen. And leading up to its release, I was expecting the same from the Mighty Movie. The other thing I was expecting was that this would be perhaps my biggest video of 2023. I knew people would want to see me talk about a sequel to a movie I despise, and I knew that sooner or later I'd have to do so. And sadly, this one was released exclusively to theaters, so I wouldn't be able to simply watch it from the comfort of my own home without being surrounded by a bunch of loud and annoying children. But I was able to convince my parents that I should be able to see a movie meant for 6-year-olds despite how I'm 16 years old, since I was previously restricted from watching the 2017 My Little Pony movie for that exact reason, and they eventually agreed to drop me off at it after I attended VidCon in Baltimore on Saturday. I also made a video on my experience there, so go check that out. And as for this movie, well, I'm honestly kinda disappointed. For how much I've been trying to hype up this video, the movie in question was, honestly, really forgettable. Unlike the first film, which focused on both Chase and Liberty, this one focuses on Skye, the smallest pup in the Paw Patrol, who's feeling insecure about herself due to her size. However, one day, a meteor crashes into their new operating base of Adventure City, and they get superpowers from the meteor that reflect an attribute of what they do. However, a new villain emerges in the form of Victoria Vance, an eccentric mad scientist who was initially incarcerated for directing the meteor onto a crash course with Earth, but she breaks out of jail with the help of the previous movie's villain, Mayor Humdinger. They then team up to steal the pups' crystals and use them for their own evil ends, so the Paw Patrol, now also known as the Mighty Pups, have to stop the bad guys and save the city. I guess now might be a time for me to build some bridges with the Paw Patrol fandom that I initially set a Molotov cocktail to and say the following: Paw Patrol: The Mighty Movie is better than the first Paw Patrol movie. Hang on, I'm not saying that it's good, I still didn't like it, I'm just saying that it's somewhat more watchable than its predecessor. And that's for a couple reasons, but I guess I can start by saying that the superhero elements of the film are handled okay. I mean, the fact that it's better than some other superhero movies that came out this year is both hilarious and depressing. That, and the animation is honestly pretty good. Not great, but good, especially considering how, like its predecessor, it was made on a very low budget compared to most other animated movies nowadays. The action here is also a step up from the first Paw Patrol movie. I appreciate the higher stakes this time around, there's some creative uses of the pups' superpowers, the movie overall has a solid color palette, and the score by Captain Marvel composer Pinar Toprak actually goes pretty hard, especially when you consider the fact that she's working on Paw Patrol of all things. In fact, the two other songs of note that play in the film, Down Like That and Learning to Fly, also go really hard for the movie that they're in. In fact, I'd even go as far and say that Learning to Fly has a decent shot at an Oscar nomination. That might sound like high praise, especially when you consider some of the other songs from other movies this year, but Christina Aguilera really put her all into it, and the end result was a beautiful ballad that, even with the knowledge of it being from Paw Patrol, I'd still say that she knocked it out of the park. Not only that, but the voice acting was actually a step up from before. While it still has the problem of hiring celebrities only to give them one or two lines like with Kim Kardashian West and especially Serena Williams, I think McKenna Grace did a decent job as Skye, and Taraji P. Henson was definitely the highlight as Victoria Vance. She really nails the Saturday morning cartoon villain energy of the character, and it makes her scenes all the more fun to watch. However, that's about as far as I'm willing to take my praise with Paw Patrol the Mighty movie, because being a better sequel doesn't mean it's good. For one, the writing is still as squeaky clean, safe, and formulaic as it gets. I know I have to keep bringing up how being generic isn't always bad, but this movie has nothing to make it stand out from all the other animated kids movies of its sort. I may not be a psychic, but I could easily predict how the film was going to play out within a couple minutes, and there weren't many surprises to be found. Like, even though it was spoiled for me on Twitter that Liberty would get the power of elasticity due to her being flexible with multitasking, I already had a feeling she'd end up getting a power to match her personality, and I was right. In addition, a lot of stuff happens that feels either stupid, pointless, or both. For example, the Junior Patrollers, a new trio of young puppies who want to join the Paw Patrol later on in their lives, have to be disbanded at one point for their safety, yet they still get Deus Ex Machina'd into the following action scene, making the previously mentioned scene feel like it could have been cut without changing anything. As for an even more blatant example, there's the scene of Skye sneaking into Vance's base to steal back her crystal while bringing all the other crystals with her just for the extra power buff after Ryder told her to take a break. Obviously, I knew that she was going to be kidnapped and that Vance would obtain all the crystals while trying to have her moment where she's like, yeah, what I'm doing's bad, but I don't care, lol. But I'm sure they could have had her obtain the crystals without Skye inadvertently contributing to the world almost being destroyed because she decided to be selfish. There's not much else for me to say about the rest of the movie. Like the first one, the other Paw Patrol members get hardly anything to do and mostly just pop up to have some occasional banter. The humor for the most part falls flat with like one or two exceptions. Ideas that could have been interesting like Skye's backstory are barely given any time to shine, and the message, while nice, feels a bit too safe compared to how the first movie had the balls to talk about something like PTSD. As I previously said though, I'm really disappointed with this movie. I really wanted something I could be absolutely merciless toward, something that would justify me hyping up this video as much as I did, and yet the end result was pretty bad to be sure, but nothing agonizing. Paw Patrol the Mighty movie may be a step up from the first movie thanks to it having some okay animation and action scenes and a slightly stronger heart than before, but it still suffers from having some terrible writing with a tiringly predictable story, completely worthless celebrity cameos, a cast of unremarkable characters, and pacing that doesn't know if it wants to move at the speed of a turtle or a cheetah. Unless you have any kids who are fans of the show, or if you like the first Paw Patrol movie, there's absolutely no rush to go out of your way and watch it. Oh, right, I guess I should also mention that before the film would start, a Dora the Explorer short would play called Dora and the Fantastical Creatures. It's translated nicely into CGI, but at the end of the day, it's Dora the Explorer, so what you see is what you get, I suppose. Anyways, there have been much worse movies to have come out this year. Paw Patrol the Mighty movie may have sucked, but at least it could have been worse. And yet, the highest score I expected to give it was a 4 out of 10, which is the score I decided to give this movie. Next time, I don't know what I'll be reviewing. There is Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, and I did listen to a lot of her music while volunteering at a summer camp a few months ago, but I doubt I'll do a video on it since it's a concert film, and I don't exactly know how I'd talk about a concert film. So my most likely next review will be for Killers of the Flower Moon. It has a great cast and a great director with Martin Scorsese, so I'm excited to see what he'll bring to the table with this one. Anyways, thanks for watching this episode of Isaac Reviews 2023, subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!